Hello and welcome to today's YouTube video. Today's topic is going to be how to find tactics. Now, obviously, the main way to do this is just to play puzzles, get that pattern recognition in your brain, learn how to calculate better, that kind of thing. But I'm going to show you a trick that might make it a little bit easier. It's not really a trick, but essentially you want to make tactical observations about the position. Now, what is a tactical observation? Well, let me show you by example. Because it's just easier to do it that way. I'm going to show you a very common line at lower level, and what I mean by lower level is like 1000 on chess.com. Sorry, not this. This is not the line. But the two knights against the Dubova, which is just instantly losing, and this is a common response. This is the only move not to lose the rook immediately. I prefer taking with the bishop here. Knight takes, pawn takes, and knight to e4, moving it forward, putting it in the center. Pretty common move. Now, this position, there is only one move, and it's a tactical move that gets you a much better position. By much better, I basically mean winning. And how can you come across this move without just knowing it flat out? Because obviously I have it basically memorized, so I don't really need to calculate here. I don't need to make any observations, but to the untrained eye, they definitely need to make observations here. Now, in Dubova London, what is the main idea of playing knight c3 rather than a more principled move like d4 and c4, the Queen's Gambit? Well, the idea is to aim at the c7 square. Now, this may just seem like a pointless observation right now, but what is the only defender of the c7 square? The Queen. Now, what is the only defender of the d5 square? The Queen. So, there's actually an overloading tactic here, and it's not what you think. It's not knight takes c7. It's not that. No. You also have to notice that if the queens were off the board right now, and the knight took on c7, it would fork the king and rook, of course, but it would also fork the d5 square. Now, if you put all of those observations together, overloading and forking square, you come across the move queen takes d5. Now, if you're also good at calculating, you can just calculate down this line. Now that we've made the observations, it's pretty obvious now. After queen takes d5, now you have a knight takes c7 check, and king moves anywhere. This is probably the most logical, and you take on d5, reclaiming the queen, and now you are up 3 extra pawns. Just make sure not to long castle here and blunder a fork of the rooks. That would be not very good. So make sure to click this knight away or defend that square. For castling long, or maybe you don't even castle long at all, you can also do this kind of thing. But yeah, this is for that example. Now we're going to go on to a new example, and it's going to be from the black side, and it's going to be in the Sicilian Dragon, or Accelerated Dragon, I should say. And we're just going to make some moves here. This is just some theory. Don't worry about it too much. Yeah, that's how it goes. Then you play knight out to f6, and bishop to c4. This is the most common move and the best move. Essentially, you're going to castle here, kind of making it seem like you're not really doing anything. But in this position, the main move is bishop to b3. And there's actually a very concrete reason why that is the main move. The concrete reason is after castles, there is a tactic here. Now, before showing off the tactic, I'm just going to point out a few tactical observations. Now, let's see here. Your knight is looking at the d5 square, and your pawn can be pushed to that square to fork the pawn and the bishop. Now that doesn't quite work, since there's 2 defenders of that square, and there's 2 attackers. Or sorry, there's 3 defenders of that square, and there's 2 attackers. But there is a tactic here to remove one of those defenders and just get a better position instantly. Now, you kind of just have to know this idea. Honestly, it's quite hard to see without knowing this idea. But essentially, you can remove a defender here and basically open up the center and get control of the center and kind of uncramp your position here as black. Now, this is actually very common across various different openings, but in this position, you have knight takes e4. Now, this is removing the defender of the d5 square, and the reason that that's important is that after knight takes d4, you can fork that pieces and reclaim your piece. So after d5, the best move is knight takes e6, but that doesn't solve the problem. Generally, the best move here is to keep the bishop on the board. So a good idea might be bishop to d3, although that loses knight on d4 as well, because that cuts off the circulation and you have two attackers on the d4 square. So yeah, bishop b3 is a good alternative, and then you just lose a piece, and black is up a pawn, and they have more control of the center. And yeah, this is why you have to study what you're doing in the opening, and you can't really just play it by ear, because you're going to miss tactics like this, which equalize or even make black's position much better in the opening. So yeah, that's the second example, and now we're going to go on to the third and final example. And guess what? Is in the Ninja of London. It can also be reached from the regular London though. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. I'm not really going to play super main lines here. I'm just going to play stuff like let's say a6. A6 is a common one. So now they develop normally with e6, knight out, bishop to e7, let's say. Now let's go bishop d3, and we're going to go castles, knight c6 seems logical here, so we're going to do that. And let's play, trying to find a way to make this work, but I think bishop to e5 is fine. And this isn't something you should play, by the way. Disclaimer, you shouldn't play like this. So I'm going to do this and take the pawn, hitting the knight away from the square. Let's play knight e8. Now, this is not such a great move. Actually, this doesn't quite work. I thought this would work here. King takes h7, but the bishop is looking at that square. So let's amend that first. Let's go all the way back to bishop e7, and we're going to just take that off the board. And now we're just going to play like normal. Blah blah blah. Castles. Bishop here. Knight here. Bishop here. Knight takes. Knight e8. That still doesn't work. Ah, I see why. Bishop e5. I can't do that. Sorry, I'm kind of just doing this on the fly, but I'm just trying to make this Greek gift sacrifice work. And because Greek gift is a very common tactic, and I want to show you what makes it work. You need to have two controls of this square, which is why I've been making this mistake. But the knight can also not be able to be on the f6 square without being taken. So, with that in mind, let's play a move like, let's see here. Okay, we're going to make a move, and we're just going to play knight here, and let's see. We're going to play rook c1, and we're going to put the knight on this bad square. Now this works. King takes h7, and then you have this Greek gift sacrifice with knight to g5, and the Greek gift goes after king g8. You simply have this checkmate. Of course, black can sacrifice the queen for the knight, but essentially how you see this tactic is there's a checklist for the Greek gift. So you kind of just have to know the Greek gift to see this tactic, although it can be reached just through calculation. Essentially, the checklist for the Greek gift is there cannot be a knight on f6, and a knight cannot reach the f6 square. And what I mean by that is this square cannot be protected by any of my pieces, and I can't take it off the board in one move. Another requirement is that you have to have 2 defenders of the g5 square. And the reason for that is so when the queen is looking at the square, you can just take it back if they sacrifice for it. Doesn't quite work with the bishop on e7 as you saw before, because if I need 3 defenders, then it doesn't work at all, because then bishop just takes knight. And I don't have the mating threat anymore, so that doesn't quite work. The bishop cannot be controlling the g5 square. The queen has to be the sole defender of the g5 square. Last requirement is that after you take on h7 here and king goes to g6, you have control of the g4 square to make a discovery with your knight. Of course, that's the best move for black, is to go to g6, because it requires a little bit more tactics from white to win the game, but is often decisive with the discovery threat on g4, the king on g6. So yeah, there's just a little checklist there, and then after you kind of have that checklist checked off, you can simply play the sacrifice, and black can't really do anything. The best try, of course, is king at g6, but then you have queen g4. You have to fight a little bit to win this position still, but it is definitely winning for sure. But yeah, that does it for today's video. Hopefully it helped you a little bit. Tactical observations are very useful. They've been very helpful for me in my over the board games, especially in an end game like making observations like the knight can't move, or else I can fork the rook. That may seem like kind of cryptic because I'm saying that randomly, but if you've watched my recaps before, you may remember a moment against a game I played against Perry, where I sacrificed my rook for a knight, and he resigned immediately because I could take a rook after he took mine. But yeah, tactical observations, they're very important. They will help you see more tactics. They'll help you just simply get better at tactics. And yeah, I hope to help. I wish you luck in your games, and I hope you see more tactics, because they're a very fun part of the game. Tactics are probably one of the most fun parts of chess. But yeah, don't forget to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in tomorrow's video.